love you,
and stand by you,
and stand by you,
as long as we both shall live.
as long as we both shall live.
The couple looked happy as they exchanged vows and danced their first dance. Shanann's family gave toasts expressing their joy.
I just want to say I love you both. You look great together, and she's been looking her whole life for a good guy. I couldn't ask for a better one. I love you guys.
The chilling video was provided by Shanann's family for a new Netflix documentary, American Murder: The Family Next Door. Never before seen home videos also show Watts hugging and kissing his daughters at the airport and enjoying a trip to the beach with the family. The documentary uncovered personal text messages between Watts and Shanann that shed light on the deterioration of their marriage in the months leading up to Watts killing pregnant Shanann and their two daughters, Bella and Cece, in 2018. I realized this trip's what's missing in our relationship. It's only one-way emotions and feelings, Shanann wrote. The last message she sent was on the night before she was strangled at their home in Colorado. Finally on plane and about to take off, she texted Watts, "Thank God. Prayers for safe flight. Love you." New video also reveals Watts with his mistress, Nicole Kessinger.
Thank you so much for coming out here with me, Christopher. I'm having a wonderful time. You mean a lot to me.
Steve Helling is a senior writer with People magazine.
So Chris Watts is in jail, and he's going to be in prison for the rest of his life. He is in his cell 23 hours a day, and he spends all day reading his Bible. He really does feel guilty about what he did. He feels remorse. He wishes he'd done things differently, and that it haunts him every day.
Welcome to Dark Matters, True Crime, the channel where every case drags you deeper into the unknown. Hit that subscribe button and join us as we explore the darkest corners of the human mind.
In the early hours of August 13th, 2018, Shanann Watts sent what would become her final text message. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't alarming, and that is what makes it so haunting. Like many messages Shanann had sent before, it carried the weight of hope, confusion, and a desperate attempt to hold her marriage together. Shanann had just returned home from a business trip. She was exhausted, pregnant, and emotionally drained. For weeks, her relationship with her husband, Chris Watts, had been unraveling. Friends noticed her growing anxiety. Text messages revealed her fear that Chris was slipping away, emotionally distant, cold, and unrecognizable. That last message was meant to bridge the silence between them. It was Shanann reaching out, still believing that communication could fix what felt broken. She asked questions. She sought reassurance. She expected an answer. But no reply ever came. What Shanann didn't know, what no one knew at the time, was that the man she trusted most had already made decisions that would end her life and shatter two families forever. That unread message would later become a chilling timestamp in the investigation, a digital echo of her final moments. Investigators would eventually recover Shanann's phone and scroll through her last communications, piecing together the emotional state she was in. To them, that final text wasn't just a message, it was evidence. Evidence of trust, evidence of vulnerability, evidence of a woman who had no idea she was in danger. Chris Watts would later give multiple versions of events, but none could erase the reality. Shanann's final words were sent to the very person who would betray her in the most unimaginable way. And as the world would soon learn, that silence on the other end of the phone spoke louder than any reply ever could. If you're following this case with us, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more deep-dive true crime stories, only on Dark Matters True Crime. By the time Shanann Watts sent that final message, the cracks in her marriage were no longer hidden, they were spreading fast. Friends later told investigators that Shanann felt like she was living with a stranger. Chris Watts, once described as attentive and mild-mannered, had become distant, withdrawn, and emotionally unavailable. Text messages between Shanann and her close friends painted a troubling picture. She spoke openly about her fears, about how Chris no longer touched her, no longer said, "I love you," and no longer fought for their relationship. She was pregnant with their third child, yet felt more alone than ever. Shanann blamed herself at times, questioning what she might have done wrong, unaware that the truth was far darker. Behind the scenes, Chris was living a double life. While Shanann was desperately trying to save her marriage, Chris had already emotionally checked out. Investigators would later uncover that he was involved in an affair, something Shanann suspected but could never fully confirm. That suspicion ate away at her, fueling anxiety and sleepless nights.
This child does not sit still ever. Look at this. Bella, say hi. Bella, say hi. And I really love the fact that careful, Cece, there's a table there. No, Cece. Go back. Child. Yeah, day in the life with Cece. And just feel blessed that we can do that. We can travel the world. One day Chris can travel that long with us. But just to be the time freedom with my family, my kids, to enjoy them and not have to worry, you know? I used to not be able to take time off for vacations because all my time off was because my kids were sick. And when the kids are sick, that's priority over vacation. Now I can do both. I can take time off. Well, I don't have to take time off from anything because I do everything from my cell phone. Good morning, Sarah. I need to come back to Canada to see you. Chris needs to come with us, so we'll find out where you are in Canada and we'll come see you. But the time freedom, I feel really blessed to have. Cece. It's just a dog. I feel really blessed to have the time freedom to enjoy my kids and still travel with them and have time off. Because I don't have to take time off from anything. I love what I do. Like, every single day, like, I don't consider it work because I literally, truly love helping people feel better and changing lives and making, giving someone their happy back, their mom back, their mood support, whatever it is that you're doing. Don't mind my hair. I don't even know what's going on with it today. Whatever you're doing, like, I truly don't consider it work because I love what I do. And if you love what you do, it's not work. You have fun.
On the night Shanann returned home, surveillance footage showed her entering the house quietly. There were no raised voices captured, no obvious signs of conflict from the outside. But inside those walls, tension had reached its breaking point. Shanann expected answers. Chris offered silence. The final text Shanann sent wasn't confrontational. It was pleading. She wanted clarity. She wanted honesty. She wanted her husband back. That message now stands as proof that Shanann was still trying to communicate, still trying to protect her family, even as the danger closed in around her. Investigators would later say that this emotional gap, the distance between who Chris appeared to be and who he truly was, became one of the most disturbing aspects of the case. Shanann was fighting for a future. Chris was planning an ending. And while Shanann waited for a response that would never come, the fate of her and her children had already been sealed. As the hours passed after Shanann Watts sent her final text, silence became the loudest answer. She waited for reassurance, for an explanation, for something, anything, that would tell her the marriage could still be saved. That message, sent in good faith and desperation, would later become one of the most haunting pieces of evidence in the entire case. Friends noticed immediately when Shanann stopped responding. This was unusual. Shanann was known for being active on her phone, especially with those closest to her.
Ben.
Hi.
You're Nicole?
Yes.
Okay. What's going on?
So my friend, we were out of town for a business trip this weekend.
Right.
And I dropped her off at 2 o'clock this morning. She's 15 weeks pregnant. She wasn't feeling well, and she had a doctor's appointment this morning at 9, and I told her to let me know if she needed me to take her. She's got 2 little girls, and she was very distraught over the weekend, wasn't eating normally or drinking, and we kept trying to force it on her because she's pregnant. Her husband and her supposedly are separating, but she didn't know this. She thought they were just having issues. He disclosed that to me today.
Okay.
Because I called him and I was like, have you talked or heard from Shanann since she left for work this morning? Because I can't get a hold of her. I've called, I've texted. Her car's in the garage. Her shoes she wears every single day are by the front door.
When messages went unanswered and calls went straight to voicemail, alarm bells began to ring. To investigators, that last text would later reveal her state of mind, concerned, hopeful, and unaware of the danger she was in. Chris Watts, meanwhile, appeared calm on the surface. He went to work as usual, spoke to co-workers, and carried on as though nothing had happened. But behind that calm exterior was a growing web of lies. When questioned later, Chris gave vague and inconsistent answers about the last time he saw Shanann and the girls.
I'm here. Hang on. Yeah, get me on the phone. Okay, get Matt on the phone.
Scott, how you doing?
How's it going?
So this is the only vehicle she would have?
Only one that, yeah.
She would drive? Okay. Does she work?
Yeah, she works from home.
Oh, from home?
She works, this is her lifeline. So yeah, that thing turns back on, it's gonna start blowing up. Oh yeah, trust me.
It was shut down?
She's in the play, yeah. Right? Well, it was originally under the pillow on the couch. You know her passcode?
I don't know her passcode.
It used to be 2385, but now it's 6 digits.
It's the baby's due date.
1/31/8/19. That's what happened, but Imitrex is something she takes for migraine. She took more Imitrex this last month than she ever had before, but that's just because she was in North Carolina with the humidity and everything like that. She was there for 6 weeks, and we got back Monday or Tuesday, and then she flew out to Arizona Friday morning, and then she got back last night about 2 a.m. The flight got delayed. She left about 11. She got here at 2.
Okay.
And I went to work this morning about 5:15.
Each statement raised more questions than it answered. The text itself became symbolic. It showed Shanann was still communicating, still reaching out, still trusting the man she believed was her partner. Investigators would later say the timing of that message was critical. It established a clear emotional contrast between Shanann's intentions and Chris's actions. As police began piecing together phone records and digital timelines, the final message stood out. It wasn't angry. It wasn't threatening. It was human. Shanann was asking for honesty, for reassurance, for love. Instead, what followed was a chilling absence. This chapter of the case exposed something deeply unsettling: how someone can appear normal, even kind, while hiding intentions that defy comprehension. Shanann's last text message would soon be read aloud in interviews, documentaries, and courtrooms, each time serving as a painful reminder of how close she was to the truth, and yet how far she was from safety. If you're following this story, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications for Dark Matters True Crime. Your support helps us continue telling the stories that must never be forgotten. By the next morning, Shanann Watts' silence could no longer be explained away. Friends who had been in constant contact with her sensed something was deeply wrong. Shanann was reliable. She showed up. She responded. She checked in. And now, there was nothing. One friend in particular grew increasingly alarmed and decided not to wait. That decision would prove critical. While Chris Watts maintained a calm appearance, telling others that Shanann had taken the girls to visit a friend. Those closest to her knew the story didn't fit.
My book bag, my computers, some of the tools that I had from the toolbox. I knew I was going to have to do some pumping into rubbers today. That's why I was out so far.
Is this on continually
Yep.
recording?
Yep. Well,
It's not, is it motion or is it?
event,
Okay, so it's motion.
Any motion event that happens, but I get cars driving from this street, and this is him at 517.
We usually park out there on the side. I just want to get everything back in. Be easier, so lugging everything out there, all the tools that I had to bring in. What else can I do with this?
My detective just showed up, so he'll probably want to talk to you. He'd probably, like I said, he might have you call at the bank and see if there's any kind of activity.
Because if there is any sort of action out there,
His camera's
I would have got it.
Like
Right.
we had issues the other week when people were stealing stuff out of like garages and stuff like that, and I had parked my truck
I
right
had
here.
to park right here.
Yeah. So someone,
see if
I could
anything
see where
happened.
someone tried to jimmy with a flathead screwdriver over there, and it was just like.
But if any action would have happened, any cars or anything left your house, I would
Yeah,
have
they
got
would
it.
have been like right in that area. They should have picked. I mean.
Oh, it'll pick up anything coming down the street this way.
You know where that tree there too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Watch, I'll show you. There's nothing on here. We've already watched that one. But like, you'll see this car.
What security system do you have?
Xfinity. Oh, you can see this car starting to drive down the street. here.
That one.
Oh, look. Okay.
See what I'm saying? It picks up all the way down there.
That's cool.
He's next door.
There we go.
I was talking about dispatcher. It'll be close for.
Cause yeah, we can pick up cars coming this way. I get anything coming this way and making this turn. So, and usually at night I pick up the cars going to your turn. So.
Shanann wouldn't disappear without telling someone, especially not while pregnant, especially not with her children. When law enforcement arrived at the Watts home for a welfare check, the house looked deceptively normal. Shoes were by the door. The car seats were still there. Shanann's phone, purse, and medication had not been taken. Each detail chipped away at Chris's explanation and turned silence into suspicion. Investigators began reconstructing the timeline, and Shanann's final text message took on new weight. It wasn't just a message anymore. It was a marker. A clear moment in time that showed Shanann was alive, engaged, and expecting a response. Everything that happened after that moment became the focus of intense scrutiny. Chris attempted to project concern. He spoke softly. He asked police to find his family, but his words felt rehearsed, detached. The emotional urgency one would expect was missing. Officers noticed it. Friends noticed it. And the camera noticed it too. As the investigation deepened, silence stopped being passive. It became active. Every unanswered message, every unexplained gap, every inconsistency tightened the net around Chris Watts. Shanann's final text, once private and personal, now stood as a silent witness, pointing investigators toward the truth. This chapter marks the moment when hope shifted into dread. when worry became certainty that something terrible had happened, and when the quiet that followed Shanann's last message finally spoke louder than any lie. As investigators continued their work, the story Chris Watts had offered began to unravel piece by piece. The timeline he described, Shanann leaving the house with the children, did not align with the evidence left behind. Every hour that passed made his explanation harder to believe. Phone records were examined closely. Shanann's final text message remained the last outgoing communication from her device. There were no follow-up messages, no activity on social media, no signs of movement afterward. For someone as communicative as Shanann, this sudden digital silence was impossible to ignore. Security footage from a neighbor's camera soon became a critical turning point. While it did not show Shanann leaving with the children, it did capture Chris's movements early that morning. His behavior appeared deliberate and controlled. He backed his truck into the driveway, something neighbors said he rarely did. Investigators took note. At the same time, friends pressed harder for answers. They questioned Chris directly, asking why Shanann's phone and car were still at the house. His responses were vague, shifting, and increasingly defensive. Each new explanation contradicted the last. Shanann's final text message now served as the emotional anchor of the case. It showed she was expecting communication, not planning to disappear. It reinforced what everyone already felt. Shanann didn't leave voluntarily. As pressure mounted, Chris's calm demeanor began to crack. Small signs of stress surfaced, nervous gestures, forced smiles, and pauses that felt too long. Investigators recognized these as indicators of deception, not grief. By the end of that day, the investigation had shifted focus. What began as a missing persons case was quickly becoming something far darker. The silence following Shanann's final message was no longer mysterious. It was damning. And with every detail added to the timeline, one truth became unavoidable. Whatever happened inside that house occurred after Shanann sent that final text, and the person who received it was now at the center of the storm. By the time investigators reached the 6th chapter of the unfolding case, digital evidence had begun to speak louder than words. Phones, timestamps, and surveillance footage quietly contradicted everything Chris Watts claimed, and at the center of it all remained Shanann's final text message, unchanged, unanswered, and impossible to explain away. Investigators analyzed Chris's phone activity alongside Shanann's. While her device went silent, his showed movement. Messages were sent. Calls were made. Life, for him, appeared to continue. That contrast raised a chilling question. How could one person's world stop completely while another's carried on as normal? The GPS data from Chris's truck added another layer. His early morning drive followed a route that immediately caught investigators' attention. Combined with the neighbor's camera footage, the timeline narrowed. The window between Shanann's last message and Chris leaving for work became the most critical period of the investigation. Friends and family, watching from the outside, felt the truth closing in. Many later said the realization hit them in waves, shock giving way to disbelief, then dread. Shanann's final text now felt like a goodbye no one recognized at the time. During interviews, Chris continued to insist on his innocence, but his words felt empty against the growing mountain of evidence. The more he spoke, the less convincing he became. Investigators noted inconsistencies not just in what he said, but in how he said it. Flat tone, limited emotion, and rehearsed concern. Shanann's message, written in vulnerability and hope, now stood as a sharp contrast to Chris's calculated responses. It reminded everyone involved that this case wasn't just about data or timelines. It was about a woman who trusted her husband enough to reach out one last time. As the investigation pressed forward, the truth was no longer hiding, and with every digital clue uncovered, the silence following that final text grew heavier, because it could no longer be ignored. For more in-depth true crime storytelling, like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications for Dark Matters True Crime. Your support helps keep these stories told with care and integrity. By the 7th chapter of the investigation, the pressure on Chris Watts had become relentless. Every interview, every question, every moment under observation chipped away at the version of events he tried to maintain. Shanann's final text message, once private, was now a silent witness that refused to let the truth stay buried. Investigators confronted Chris with the growing contradictions. The timeline didn't fit, the digital evidence didn't align, and his emotional responses felt increasingly disconnected from the gravity of the situation. Where there should have been panic, there was control. Where there should have been desperation, there was restraint. As hours turned into days, the weight of what had happened began to settle over everyone involved. Shanann's friends replayed their last conversations with her, haunted by the knowledge that her final message was sent in hope, not fear. She believed she was talking to her husband, not someone capable of destroying everything she loved. Chris's public pleas began to sound hollow. Investigators noted how often he spoke about wanting his family back, yet rarely mentioned Shanann by name. The absence was subtle, but telling. Body language experts and detectives alike would later point to this phase as the moment when the mask truly started to slip. Behind closed doors, investigators knew they were closing in. Shanann's final text had established intent. She was trying to fix her marriage, not escape it. That single fact dismantled Chris's narrative entirely. For those following the case, this chapter marked the emotional turning point. Hope faded. Reality set in, and the silence after Shanann's final message was no longer mysterious. It was devastating. The truth was no longer hiding in the shadows. It was waiting to be spoken. In the final chapter of this story, Shanann Watts's last text message stands not just as evidence, but as a legacy. It captures a moment frozen in time, a moment filled with hope, trust, and the belief that honesty could still save her family. That belief makes the message devastating, but it also makes it powerful. When the investigation reached its conclusion, Shanann's final words were read and reread by detectives, journalists, and the public. Not because they revealed fear, but because they revealed love. Shanann was still trying, still communicating, still trusting the man she married. And in that truth lies the full weight of the betrayal. Chris Watts' shifting stories and eventual admissions could never erase what that text represented. It contradicted every attempt to rewrite the narrative. Shanann did not run away. She did not abandon her children. She reached out in vulnerability, expecting care, not harm. For her friends and family, that final message became both a source of pain and proof. Proof of who Shanann was. Proof of the future she wanted. Proof that the danger was never visible to her. And for the public, it became a reminder that evil often hides behind familiarity. Today, Shanann's final text remains a haunting symbol in true crime history. It reminds us that victims are more than headlines. They are people with voices, hopes, and unfinished sentences. Shanann's voice was silenced, but her message continues to speak. It speaks for accountability, for awareness, and for remembering Shanann, Bella, and Celeste, not for how their lives ended, but for the love that defined them. If stories like this matter to you, please like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications for Dark Matters True Crime. Together, we keep their voices alive and ensure they are never forgotten.